All right, everybody, welcome in. It is 4:57. It's a little bit early here. I want to get on just for a couple minutes. We are getting started here. I'm putting out some invitations to folks that are out there. Everyone, we're trying to reach out and let people know that we are going live here. We've had a little change in our lineup tonight, so I hope that you'll bear with us tonight. We want to say a prayer for our friend Stacy, who's not going to be here tonight as we get on. She is not able to be here. So we want to lift her up, and we're letting folks know that we're getting ready to go. Derek will be here. Dr. G is going to be here, and we're going to be getting started here in just a few minutes. Tonight's topic is one that is dear to all of us, one we're all excited about, I think, and that's talking about the subject specifically of insulin resistance and going into some of the science of that, as well as the protocol that we've talked about, sharing some of our stories. So we're going to be kind of changing things up just a little bit from what we had planned. So we're going to see what happens tonight. This is our first time with that happening. Glad to see some folks coming in. Please, if you've got questions, we're going to do that. That's kind of a new feature that we've got going on, is if you've got questions tonight, we want to, there's Derek. Let's bring Derek on, and let's see if we can get Derek in here. We're going to go. Right, we've got Lauren on, supposed to be. Lauren's joining. Derek, are you getting on? Looks like.
I'm here.
All right.
I'm here.
Hey, Derek.
Awesome.
Hey.
How are
Very
you?
good.
How are you?
I'm good.
I got to back up. I got to check my pre-screen. My face is right there. Nobody wants to see me that up close and personal.
I have to say, it's been a long day.
And then you have to look at this mug right there. That's a scary thing. Other people probably do. Hey, it's good to have you guys in tonight. I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit so we can do this. So as I was letting people know, we've had a little bit of change tonight. And Stacy is not going to be able to be on our call tonight. So we're gonna make sure to say a little prayer for her today and lift her up. She is not able to be here. So we're gonna roll with this tonight with a little bit of change here. And our focus tonight is talking about the subject of insulin resistance. And I am joined tonight with Derek Henderson and Dr. G. And we're going to share a little bit about our stories on this tonight, as well as what's happened for us, but also this particular subject. Hey, Rob, good to see you. I see Matt's on here. Awesome. So as we do that, we're going to talk about the subject of insulin resistance specifically as kind of our theme. If you do have questions, we're going to talk, that's kind of a new feature that we're doing with this call, is to talk a little bit about that as we talk about the science. And so just so you two know, I've got a surprise for Derek and Dr. G a little bit, is that I have a slideshow that I think will be familiar for both of you that's now optimized for us to do lives with. So we can talk a little bit about the science, and it won't be backwards on the screen this time. So when people say, we can't see it, it's backwards, we're good. We're good. I've done that work on this one.
Awesome.
So, well, I'm going to jump right in here, and I'm going to invite Derek to share a little bit about, Derek, your story. You had a great post that I put up on my stories today that I think is particularly for men. You and I both did the men's health seminar that we did together on this with insulin resistance. But the issue of testosterone and men's health, and we don't want to go into that in depth, but I know that that's something that was part of your journey. Would you kind of unpack, as a professional athlete, kind of what your experience has been and how this insulin resistance has impacted you and what you learned?
Absolutely. And thanks again, Kim, for having me on, Dr. G. Yeah, so I was a ex-professional baseball player. 14 years in professional baseball, topped out the AAA level, the Blue Jay Mets organization, and various independent leagues overseas. And during that time, obviously, if people don't know, it's a very busy lifestyle. Baseball is the only sport that you play every single day, professional sport that is. 140 games in the minor league system, 162 games in the major league system. So you're constantly on the go. You're on planes, you're on buses, you're living out of a suitcase, and it's a hectic lifestyle. So you don't get to eat very good. Yes, we're constantly in the gym trying to stay fit for the full season. As you know, spring training has already started. The baseball season will start in April, and it's go from that point. So a lot of people think athletes are the epitome of health. That is not true. My typical diet was fried foods, apple juice, fruit juices, cran apple juices, and a little bit of ice cream and cookies and cake at night. And little did I know in my 20s when I got drafted at 20 years old out of Tennessee State University, I didn't know the testosterone issues, as you mentioned, Ken, and the cholesterol issues were something that started at that age. And I'm now 56. So May of last year, I met a gentleman who implanted my very expensive devices. Once I got out of professional baseball in '04, I became a medical device rep. He asked me about insulin resistance. And two of the things that I suffered from was cholesterol issues. And again, Ken, as you mentioned, was testosterone issues. So I just blamed it on old age. And I just, was like, hopefully I didn't have to be put on a statin, which is a lipid dosed medicine for cholesterol, high triglycerides. And he told me that's old age has something to do with it, but it has to do with how you ate back when you're 20 and 30 and 40. So I was like, wow. So anyway, just to keep the story short, I start learning about insulin resistance and how high levels of insulin in our bodies affect every aspect of our health: diabetes, obesity, PCOS, thyroid issues, and things of that nature. And he just said, hey, give me 3 months and see if we can keep you off not having to get on a cholesterol medication. Well, after 30 days, I had a perfect lipid panel after being on the Field Grade system.
Wow.
That's when I was sold. I was like, wow. And then time went on. By accident, when I retired from ball, I gained 41 pounds. I was 41 pounds over my playing weight of 200. And no, I wasn't obese, but I needed to lose weight. I didn't need to be 241 pounds, but I couldn't lose weight. I didn't understand why. Well, now I know. I was fighting against insulin resistance. And once I started to correct myself metabolically, I'm now at 210 pounds. 10 pounds away from my playing weight from 2004. That's how much. This is just an amazing journey. And so back to your point, Ken, about testosterone. Yeah, I made a post the other day. I was not ashamed of it, simply because men are, we have egos. So do baseball players. And we're ashamed to talk about low testosterone, low libido, erectile dysfunction. That's why Cialis and Levitra and Viagra are billion-dollar drugs. Why? Because there's a problem. So, as time went on, I noticed my testosterone levels were through the roof because I woke up with, a tent in the morning, and it was weird. Like, this is something I experienced in my teens and my 20s. And so, again, you've said this before, Ken, we're ashamed to say this, but I'm not, because now I know why I suffered from low testosterone issues. And I beg all my ex-baseball player friends, all my friends, males, to, you absolutely need to listen to this, because it has changed the course of me but maybe having to get on medication to fix an issue that's easily fixable with lifestyle changes. So there you have it.
There you go. And that's awesome. And when we talked about it, and I only touched on it a little bit, I'm a testicular cancer survivor. So, right there, I'm down one. So, my youth group kids nicknamed me Uniball back in the day after my surgery. So, and we've got to be honest about it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we? I mean, we don't want to talk about it. And I've watched when I bring it up on lives where people just drop off the screen. As soon as I say that word and I talk about men's health, I was a keynote speaker for Relay for Life one year. And when I was at the opening ceremony, everybody was with me until the moment I named my cancer. And then you could just see people go, I can't believe he said that.
Right. Right.
This is our health. We're talking about cancers, and people were uncomfortable with it. But this is the reality. And I'm glad. I appreciate you bringing it up, and let's broaching that subject is a huge part of this journey that we're on. And Dr. G, you had a little bit different journey, and you actually addressed part of it today in a post that came out and I know I'm kind of throwing this to you real quick, but I think it's very personal regarding cancer and how we're dealing with GLP-1s. And this is not to shame anybody for being on them. It's this idea that we're not getting all the information. And that's personal for you, isn't it?
It's very personal to me. So back in 2010, I was diagnosed with papillary carcinoma of the thyroid, and breaking it down, basically it was cancer. And you don't realize what you have until you don't have it. In other words, when you are healthy, you don't realize what, you don't think about it until all of a sudden that's threatened in a way. And I had two small children. At the time, they were, one was a teenager, one was probably 10. And I was a single parent. I lost my first husband. He passed away when they were 6 and 9. And so everything flashed before my eyes. And I was like, well, they lost one parent. You start to think of things very differently, in a very different way. Like, what haven't I done? What things I want to do? Am I going to be able to see my children, grow up, get married, have children of their own? You start to see things differently. And when I was, when I researched GLP-1s and did my own research, because that was an option for me. When I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, it was an option for me. My medical provider basically said, if this doesn't work in 3 months, we're going to check your labs again, and then we may want to think about that shot. And I'm like, yeah, no, time out. So I started doing research on it. When I found out the number one thing, 78% chance of medullary thyroid cancer, even though I didn't have a thyroid at the time, I was like, no, I'm done with that. Because why would you, and I think people just don't realize there's another option, but why would you subject your health to that when there are other options? And that's what we're here for tonight. We're letting you know there are other natural options that are backed by science. These are not, this isn't a gimmick. This is not something, that we're just, I've been on this system for 13 months, so over a year. I'm not sure how long, Derek, you've been on it, and I can't remember, Ken, when you started. I know it was shortly after me, but it's something that I plan on keeping going in my life, simply because if I was on medication, I would be on that for the rest of my life. Curing nothing, reversing nothing, and helping nothing. I would just be taking the medication to get to the next appointment. And basically you get to the point where you are controlled hypertensive, you're a controlled diabetic, you're controlled, with your with your cholesterol. It's not doing anything but getting you to the next appointment. And I didn't want to do that. And so there is a natural option. There is another way. If you are open to it. Now, is it going to cure you immediately? Is it going to revert? No, you have to, be diligent and be compliant, just like you would be on your medication. So
right.
It's something that I did my own research, and this is what helped me. I reversed my type 2 diabetes. I am no longer a controlled hypertensive patient. I was On medication, my blood pressure was 165 over 112. It hovered, give or take 10 points either direction. It hovered that way. My lower number was never under 100 for about a year. It just all of a sudden became controlled, and they didn't know what to do. They were going to put me on another medication, but keep taking the one that didn't work. That didn't make sense to me. And so I'm no longer hypertensive. I'm off that medication. No longer diabetic, not taking that medication. I no longer, I've come a long way. I've been able to reduce my thyroid medication. I'll never be able to get off that. I had a thyroidectomy, complete thyroidectomy with radiation, the whole gamut. I know that this is something that is going to be a part of my life because I want to add years to my life. Excuse me. I want to add life to my years, not just years to my life. That's basically what I wanted to say.
Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely. So what we're talking about here tonight is a specific condition that most people aren't even aware that it exists. And that's been one of the things that I think for all of us, and certainly Dr. G, for you as a doctor, as far as it relates to dairy, I mean, as an athlete, you've talked about how these things really we never really talked about, and it hasn't been talked about. For me as a pastor, I'm involved in a vocation that is one of the most obese, sickest professions that there is. I find it hysterical if you look back through history. If you notice the pictures of old friars and monks, they all had big bellies, and we've repeated that. Clergy are some of the most overweight, most susceptible to insulin resistance and diabetes, and people don't really know what it's about. And so that's what we want to talk a little bit about tonight. I think when most people think of it, when they hear insulin, what does everybody think of most?
Diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah. But it is so much more significant than that alone. It incorporates so many other things that people don't even know, which is why I wanted to try to see if I could make this fly tonight. And let's see what happens when this presentation actually comes up and everybody can read it. Look at that.
Look.
Oh, there we go. When we're talking about insulin resistance, we're talking about a host of conditions that we don't know about. We don't know that these are connected, and we don't hear about it, do we?
Not much.
No, not at all. I knew nothing about it.
I knew nothing about it either. And I went to school.
And then
nothing about it.
I mean, we just got off a call with Dr. Tiffany, hearing about that as somebody that was a primary care physician. I mean, and it's crazy that this is not addressed. It's not talked about. And so many of us are suffering from it. 93%, anywhere between 88 to 93% of us are dealing with this condition. And for me as a pastor, it's become passionate for me as a justice issue. Our children are dealing with conditions now that they never had to deal with before. And as pastors and clergy, we should be on the forefront of saying something needs to happen and something needs to change. And most people don't know what is even happening. And so I've got a little hopefully something that would help folks. So looking at this just for a second, imagine this is the cell of your body. The cells in our bodies all need to have glucose in order to function. They want it. Your body, through the process of gluconeogenesis, I know this is like science class here, but hey, let's target that because that's the reality. We didn't get it. And some of us slept through part of health class, so let's just own that. But gluconeogenesis gives us all the sugar we need from what we consume. We don't need to add extra sugar. And normally what happens is insulin is the key. And behind it, it's dragging all of the sugar. It will come to the cell and it will go right in there, unlock, and all of the sugar can go right into that cell. But when there's so much sugar in our bodies, that key can't get in. It can't unlock that cell. And so what happens is the insulin, which is so high, and the sugar with it, it has no place to go. We can't get it into our bodies. and our cells can't use it. And so the bodies basically do what they did here in Anchorage, Alaska last year, and there was no place to put all the snow. So it just kept crowding the streets, and our streets kept getting smaller because there was no place to put it. That's what happens to our arteries. When it goes by the liver, it just dumps into the liver because the liver's happy to take whatever comes by and grab it. It goes into all the different places in our body, which leads to all the conditions that we're dealing with and we're talking about tonight. So as we talk about that and we address that, I wanted to throw it out to Dr. G and Derek to talk a little bit about how you feel when it comes to the lifestyle changes. How have lifestyle changes impacted you and the conditions that you were having? Because I think for me and everybody else, we were shocked early on that this really wasn't always about weight loss. It's been about so many other things that we didn't even know. So let's throw out some of those ones that hit us right out of the gate within the first couple of weeks. What happened to you, Derek? What little things did you see?
Well, my energy level for one, because I was a coffee drinker. I didn't realize that coffee had what was called chlorogenic acid in it. When I learned about what the yerba mate plant did, I didn't realize that the extract that Unicity provides is 370 times more than anything, even the yerba mate plant itself, and how it helps with lowering glucose levels, how it lowers or clears brain fog, and gets rid of the food noise, because I'm a foodie, right? And I love to eat. So had Dr. Aiken told me, who is a neurosurgeon who, like I said, introduced me to the protocol, told me I needed to fast, I'd have been like, no, because I didn't understand fasting. You don't know what you don't know. So that was the one thing that I noticed, my energy level. And the cool thing about what got me was that he didn't tell me to eat perfect. He just told me, stay on the protocol, skip breakfast, drink a Unimate in the morning, and that fasting part was easy, Ken. And once I had my first meal in the afternoon, I drank another Unimate, the yerba mate extract. And then he said, when you eat, just take the fiber. So I did that for 30 days. Didn't change anything. And in 30 days, I got my blood work back, which is so cool about this product. This isn't Ken and Dr. G and Derek telling people that this product works. This product is measured objectively. And when it's measured objectively, it's measured obviously through your blood work. That tells you if it works or not. And so back to your question, Ken, in 30 days, I kind of freaked out thinking, oh my God, this lady's going to put me, when I went to get my blood work reviewed, she's going to put me on a statin, because I didn't change anything. I just took this crazy powder that Dr. Aiken asked me to take, and I had a perfect lipid panel. So, and then there is one thing I want to say that just happened this Monday, real quick, and then I'll shut up.
Sure.
When my wife had our last child 16 years ago, this just happened Monday. We all, and Dr. G, I love you to death. I get it. Most physicians don't know this, but my wife developed hypothyroidism, kind of what you went through, and they put her on Synthroid. And 16 years later, she's still on Synthroid, right? So yes, her chemo-induced neuropathy because she got leukemia, got on chemo, and the chemo got rid of the leukemia, but she developed chemo-induced neuropathy, which is awful. Anybody that has neuropathy is awful. Well, the Feel Great system helped that, but it did not help her thyroid issue. And so, long story short, she was tired of it. Like, this is ridiculous. I've been paying money, co-pays. I even got involved with F8. That's a thyroid company. Nothing changed. And we reached out to Lindsay Vinn, wonderful lady who works for metabolic IQ, or insulin IQ, I'm sorry. And we had her blood work. We all three were on a call. And again, we trust doctors, right? That's why we do what they tell us. And we went to somebody who understood what insulin does, as Ken mentioned earlier. And in 5 minutes, y'all, she said, oh, you have Hashimoto's. This just happened this past Monday.
No.
My wife started bawling. Not because she had Hashimoto's, but because somebody finally told her what was wrong with her. And she goes, this is easy. This is the easy fixable. It's reversible. And she goes, You've been on Synthroid, and there's two hormones that you have to address when you have thyroid issues: T3 and T4.
Oh,
Synthroid only addresses one.
yes.
And we
Yes.
were blown away. So now she's put her on hormone therapy, and we are on our way to reversing Hashimoto's. 16 years, y'all, on the same
Awesome.
medication that did nothing.
Wow.
So anyway,
I couldn't.
I had to throw that in. That just happened this past Monday.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am so glad, because it's so
So
frustrating
good.
when you know something's going on and you can't. No one acknowledges or even just the listening. And I'm
Right.
so glad that she listened, because that's all part of it. I couldn't take Synthroid because I couldn't convert my T4 to T3. I couldn't take levothyroxine because I couldn't. My T4 would not convert to T3. So I actually take 2 thyroid medications because I need a synthetic T4 to T3 because my body won't do it. In addition to a natural thyroid medication similar to Synthroid, it is the most frustrating thing ever, because you just want someone to listen to you, and you know what's going on, and they all go, well, your labs look great. You know, your labs look good. I'm sure she got her lab work back, and a doctor said everything looks great. That's what happened to me as well, and it's so frustrating. So I am so glad for that. I am so glad for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was awesome. So I had to throw that in because that just happened Monday. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
I know you asked a question. What was the question again?
So, yeah, it was, we talk about the long term, and, of course, we talk about diabetes, and we talk about, losing weight. That's what, kind of what everybody's really excited about when they first hear about the protocol. But insulin resistance has a lot of different signals. I like to incorporate it as it's the body's check engine light constantly going off. All of these things that are happening we didn't realize were taking place. The body's been throwing that check engine light, and you know as well as I do, when that check engine light comes on, if you don't check and figure out what it is, the car's going to let you know it ain't working. So
Right.
Dr. G picked me up on the side of the highway last year because my truck did that very thing. It threw a check engine light, and 15 seconds later, all the oil was on the highway, and the engine had seized up on the side of the road. So we know what that means. We have a dead vehicle. But we don't want that. But there's little things that are happening. And I was just throwing out, what were the very first things that were happening in the first couple weeks? Because I've always been surprised. I like listening to people's stories, because even when we talk about the big goals, what are the little changes that happened with you, Dr. G?
So the biggest thing that I noticed first was my inflammation was gone. I have fibromyalgia. I was constantly in pain. Always, my joints hurt. I was always swollen and inflamed. Within a week, my inflammation was gone. And along with it, there was pain that was gone as well. I had more energy. I hadn't felt like that in years, because this went on forever. My joints didn't hurt anymore. That was within the first 5 to 7 days. And we were on vacation when I started taking. So I really wasn't hopeful with anything. I was kind of skeptical. I was like, well, I'm not really sure what this is going to do. But I knew that I didn't want to be on medication. That was my motivation. And I thought, well, I'll just do this until, we'll see what happens. And then after a month, I dropped about 10, 15 pounds maybe. But that's not what I was going for. I noticed that I had a lot more energy, mental clarity, just little things. Oh, skin tags disappeared, the majority of them. They started going away. Where they went, I don't know. They just went, didn't care. I was like, wow, that's kind of neat. I don't have that anymore.
Yeah,
My hair.
I always wondered about that when people say they go. I was like, where'd they go? I mean, it's like.
Honestly, I don't know where they go. They just go, and I'm glad. My hairdresser, I've been going to her for 30 years. She looks at me, she goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It's the stuff, I'm drinking, and I don't know. It seems to be working. That was all within a month. And then my skin started getting better. Just those little things, like you said, that I didn't even realize it was an issue because I had them for so long. I'd had them long. I got used to them. I thought, oh, well, I'm getting older. I guess that's expected. No, all of this is reversible. And the thing is, nobody told me that.
Right.
When I got diabetic, and or even 10 years prior, 15 years prior, when I had hypertension and they put me on a high blood pressure medication, no one said this is reversible. They just said change your diet. Well, I tried with the guidelines I was given, which we all know that aren't that great. And, you know, they didn't work for me. If they work for you, that's awesome, but they did not work for me. And I just, it's little things like that that I didn't really notice until they were not there anymore.
Yeah.
And overall, I lost 51 pounds as of last month. I haven't weighed myself again. I don't like to do that. I went down another pant size, so I'm still working on it. I mean, I'm not anywhere where I need to be yet, so I'm not finished. So
awesome.
Well, Dr. G can attest to for me, because she was actually, before I started the protocol, we were talking about my needing to go get checked for sleep apnea because I was snoring so much. And I would say in the last couple months before I started the protocol, she was kicking me out of the bed, and I was sleeping on the couch when I was sleeping in the bed because she didn't want me in there because she couldn't get any sleep. So I can tell you right out of the gate, that disappeared. I think was in the first week, didn't it, Dr. G?
Yeah, it was very quickly. It was quick.
And I had a deviated septum that I'd had surgery on years ago, and it didn't make any difference. I was still always stopped up. Now it's like, okay, this is crazy. I didn't quite know that the sinus passages stayed that open all the time. I'm still kind of fascinated by that. I can breathe, which is crazy. Beyond that, though, I've been suffering. Those of y'all that know me as a pastor through years, I suffered from migraines for many years. Those finally went away. And with those, in all the churches, I'm so thankful for all the ways that you all tried to make sure there was food that had no cow's milk products, no eggs, and no peanuts, so I could eat at the socials. That was not a problem now because I no longer have food allergies being on this.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Nobody said anything about that. Now, do I indulge overly? No, because I never really know. And I don't want migraines again. That was a miserable way to live. But those things right out of the gate were really transformative for me. I mean, and it was the little things. And then, like you guys have said, over time, the weight loss came, the lowering of the blood pressure, the anxiety, all of those things began to take hold, and I began to see the impacts of it. And so what I want to do is a little bit now is just talk a little bit about some of the science that is part of this. And I think this is a slide that many of us are aware of. And we're talking about two products. And we're going to show those in just a minute. But as we've been talking about this, you know, most of us, when we talk about insulin resistance, we're not really addressing, we always think about medication and not our diets. But one of the things that we've learned in the Cleveland Clinic in their study on one of the elements of this protocol is the importance of fiber, because one of these is a soluble, insoluble fiber matrix. And with that, what they were able to determine, along with the University of Sydney in their study, was that eating white bread normally spikes here. However, when you take the balance, so this turned bad food into okay food. It's not great, but it brought that down. And what the Cleveland Clinic said, that this on a population scale could eliminate the need for lipid-lowering medications. So we're talking about something that has been backed by the study and the research. The science says this works. In addition to that, the other product, the Unimate that Derek was talking about, I know the GLP-1 couldn't flip backwards, but in a fasted state, this increases your body's natural GLP-1s by 60 to 70%, helping your body to stimulate the natural GLP-1s to help control your food cravings. That's huge. No shots, no injectables, nothing like the article and what happened on the Today Show. Those side effects that Dr. G was talking about with thyroid cancer, not on this. There's none of that. These are just some of the university studies and the universities that have looked at this. The company behind this is over 100 years old. You see the Rexall drugs up there because the company Unicity was born out of Rexall. What they came up with is what we're doing and what we're talking about. This has been around as a product for 30 years, and it's around the world in over 50 countries. If you want to look in the physician's desk reference, Dr. G, you ought to talk about this one. You're a prescribing doctor. Why is this important for you?
It's important because all the medications that are prescribed are in that book. We, as you know, as a clinician, as a provider, we don't have to memorize everything because it's all there. The thing about that is, though, you can't buy your way into the PDR. So every medication is in there, but these nutraceuticals that we're talking about, they're also in there. Unicity has several other products as well. And if you want to find out about them, they're also in the PDR. There's 19 of them. So we're not just talking about 2 of these nutraceuticals. All of the nutraceuticals, 19 of them that are available in this country are in the PDR. So you might say, well, okay, well, I can take a fiber. It's Metamucil. Well, I believe that's owned by, I think that's from Johnson & Johnson. Okay, and then there's Pepto-Bismol for acid reflux. So you have Metamucil for the fiber replacement. You have Pepto-Bismol for your acid reflux or heartburn, sour stomach, whatever. They're not in the PDR. They can't buy their way into the PDR. It doesn't work that way. Now, I guess Johnson & Johnson could buy the PDR, but they don't. They haven't. So these nutraceuticals, the point is they are in the PDR. So when you go to your doctor or when you go to your healthcare provider and they want to know what are you doing or you want to tell them about it, they can look it up. It's all under, just put in Unicity, and it's right there. They all come up. Every single one of them talks about the mechanism of action, talks about what they are, talks about what they have, the components of it, and what they do. It's all there. And that's why it's important.
Well, and talk a little bit too, since you are a doctor, you saw the impact of insulin resistance, as a dentist and as a, in your role. And most people don't understand that you went to medical school. I mean, you're a specialist. So you took classes in medical school. That was part of the requirement. And then you focused on your specialty of dental work. So you've gotten really kind of both sides of this, that you've gotten a huge swath of what you get in medical school, and then you focus specifically here. But with that, you saw things in medical school you questioned, and you continue to question that through your career. And now you've been able to put 2 and 2 together of things that you have been learning. Can you talk a little bit more about that part of the science?
I would be happy to. So one of the things that when I was in school, there was type 1 diabetes and there was type 2 diabetes. But we didn't know it as type 2. We knew it as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. That was the late onset diabetes. Type 1 was where your pancreas, the beta cells, do not produce insulin. So that's why you have to have insulin. But with type 2, it was late onset, meaning when you got older, you developed it, or when you gained some weight and you were overweight, you would develop it. It was late onset. You developed it later in life. It was non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Then all of a sudden it became type 2. But when I was in school and I learned it as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, the name says what it is. It's not dependent on insulin. So I would always question why they treated it with insulin. And maybe not at first, they gave you medication, right? But then when you go on one medication and then you go on another medication for type 2 diabetes, then it doesn't work. You eventually, look at all the people that are on insulin, not just one, sometimes up to 4 or 5 shots of insulin a day. Why is that? Your body is making too much insulin in type 2 diabetes. The last thing you want to do is give it more insulin. It doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me. And I guess I was a bit challenging when I was in school. I'll use that term. I always questioned that. And I always because that's what we've always done. We've always treated it that way. Well, it's not working, because how many are on is a type 2 diabetic and they're on insulin and all they're doing is managing you to the next appointment, like I said earlier. And then when that doesn't work, they give you more insulin. And then that doesn't work. It's just, where are you going with this? Your A1C just keeps climbing. That's not direction we want it to go. So that's one of the things that I, saw also in the dental chair, where things would spiral out of control, and I would see that periodontally. But initially when I was in school, that's what they were teaching, and they're probably still teaching it now because that's what they're treating. That's how they're treating.
Right.
So.
Right. So
Hey,
when we're
Kim.
eating, oh, go ahead, Derek. I was going to bring you on
No,
here to
real
talk
quick.
about part.
I have to give a shout out to one of my partners that just popped on here, and you need to reach out to him. His name's Clark Villegas. He's an ex-professional baseball player. You are going to want him on one of your shows one day on your lives, because he has defeated ulcerative colitis.
Oh, wow.
Tons of colonoscopies that he got sick of, and he is on the Feel Great system. He's down a few pounds, but you need to reach out to him after this, because he has an incredible story. And another thing I want to say too is that thank you, Dr. G, for that, because this product is all natural. It's safe. The reason the FDA regulates medicines is because there's a safety profile. They have to make sure that it's safe for patients to take. Well, guess what? This is all natural, and there's very few side effects. So guess what? My 83-year-old father is reversing his type 2 diabetes right now. His A1C went from 13.5 to 7. And so if I put him on it, obviously it's safe. And guess what else? My 8-year-old grandson is on this. So if I'm putting my family on this stuff, that's how important this is. So, take it or leave it. This is education. We're not sitting here waving products in everybody's face to buy it. Fix insulin resistance. This is just a tool to do it.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I want to share with that just a little bit. So one of the things that I love, this is one of many diagrams, is that when we eat during the course of the day, and we usually eat 3 meals a day, this is what keeps happening, is every time we eat, our blood sugar keeps going up and our insulin stays high throughout the day. This is this whole issue of insulin resistance we're talking about. This is not how it's meant to be for us. This is what the protocol helps us to do throughout the day. Now, we don't necessarily advocate for eating 3 meals, but if you were to take a balance before every meal you have, this is what you're going to see as an effect as far as that goes, is making sure that everything stays regulated throughout the day, and we keep everything low. Now, Derek, you were talking about, and I think you're a great one to talk about this, you're talking about energy. The Unimate, that's one, we have 2 of those that we have in the protocol, the way that we do it, that we take each day. Can you talk a little bit about Unimate from your experience of what you know about this protocol?
Yes, again, the Unimate has helped me so much because, like I said, I'm a foodie. I love to eat, and the natural raising of this product helps you to stop from snacking. And I'm super pumped about it because, like I said, I like, if I eat and then all of a sudden my glucose rises and then 2 hours later I'm hungry. That's what everybody goes through. But obviously the Unimate helps me, and the energy that it gives me is just absolutely amazing because I don't need to drink a Red Bull. I don't need to, like when I was playing baseball, take B12 shots. I don't have to do that anymore. This is it, and I'm not saying B12 is not natural, because it is, but that was the edge that I needed as a baseball player. This product it has a patent on it, so you can't copy it. And so obviously there's something to it. And taking the Unimate, I sometimes take it 3 times a day. Like I'm drinking one now. I don't like to drink it too late because there's a little caffeine element to it, natural caffeine. But I don't like to take it too late because I like to sleep. But the energy that I have during the day, there's sometimes I'll go all the way to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, without eating. So if you're, as Ken mentioned, if you're afraid of fasting, this tool will help you get there, because when you're in a fasting state, as Ken mentioned, insulin levels are down and your body is burning fat and glucose for energy. So that's the cool thing about the Unimate. Again, it's just a tool to help you get there. And I love it. It's my favorite product. It really is. So there you go.
And which is great when you and I get on here, because that's your favorite product. My favorite product is the second part of this. So, which I love to talk about, that I never thought I would be excited to talk about fiber, because all I ever thought it did was help me go to the bathroom, right? That's what I thought. When Dr. G said, here, this is the protocol, I looked at that orange package and I thought, Metamucil. Why on earth am I going to spend money for that? I can go to Walmart and pick that off the shelf. I can get the Equate brand version of that. Oh no, folks, you need to stop right there, because you don't know what you're talking about. This is not just any fiber, because we don't understand fiber. That's what we think. That's what we've been conditioned for, that it just helps you poop. And that's not it at all. You know, and there's a good third grade jokes right there. We can throw around all over the place. It's all great. But fiber is an incredible part of our diets. It actually, in my estimation, if I had any say about it, which they don't want to listen to me, there's actually 4 macros. It's not proteins, healthy fats, and carbs. Fiber should be the 4th macro, because what that's doing, it's preparing your body, feeding your gut microbiome with everything healthy that it needs. We're talking about true probiotics that you don't need a pill for, because if we were to eat the soluble and insoluble fiber that we need, it would change everything. But it's all been stripped from our diets. We don't have fibers. Think apple juice. Apple juice is apples. It is actually sugar water because there's no fiber. When you get an apple in nature, it is surrounded by fiber. And in truth, it's one of the perfect fibers, because in an apple, you get soluble and insoluble fiber in one natural package. I've been researching all the foods that have soluble and insoluble fiber in them. That's how incredible these foods are. That's why this is so important, because we don't get it. And understand, if you were to increase by 5 grams the amount of soluble fiber that you get in your diet, you lower your diastolic and systolic blood pressure. That's why this is so important. And those studies at the Cleveland Clinic and at the University of Sydney are so powerful. If you were to increase it by 10 grams, you lower migraines by 11%.
Wow.
Tell me I don't love fiber. Tell me I don't love this. I'm not giving this up. I will take this as often as I can, because what this is going to do, it does feed your gut microbiome. If you've dealt with anxiety, if you've dealt with mental health issues, that gut-brain connection is so very important. The bacteria in our gut influence so much of our body. And when we eat the crap food that we get fed all the time in bags and boxes with barcodes, that only feeds the bad bacteria. And what happens is the good bacteria begins to go up the esophagus looking for good stuff to eat. That's part of where we get acid reflux. It begins to tear at the gut lining. Soluble and insoluble fiber, make sure there's a mesh that goes around our esophagus and stomach, and the gut microbiome starts to throw a party, because we're finally giving it the stuff it needs to eat to keep us healthy. And there's a good bit of insoluble fiber in there, so yes, it will make sure you stay regular as well. But missing out on this is a key part of the protocol that you can't stop talking about. They go hand in hand, and we truly need both of them. So the protocol, I want to throw out to folks, if you were invited here by anybody that shared that link, the protocol kind of works this way. So it does. There's the Unimate and the balance. And typically the most basic way that we do this is we start the day right over here with fasting and having the Unimate. We continue to burn our fat for fuel until we have our first meal. We start drinking that second Unimate. And during the heaviest meal of the day, right before that, we have the balance. Now, there's more to it than that, for sure. That's why we do coaching. That's why the 3 of us are here, and we love to talk about this, because we love to see people get healthy. But there's also a lot of questions that get asked to us. We've all gone on lives, and we're all coaches, and friends of ours, clients of ours that we've met from around the country that are on the protocol often have questions. So this is the part of one of the things that we've kind of changed, is to talk specifically about some of those questions. If you've got a question, put it in the comments down below. In the meantime, we're going to talk about some of those frequently asked questions that we get from folks throughout the course of the week when we're coaching and talking to folks along the way. I love to talk about this one, and I'm going to throw this out to everybody. What is supposed to be the most important meal of the day? What do we have for that meal? Derek, Dr. G, what do you think?
Dr. G, go for it.
It's not breakfast. What are we supposed to have?
Yeah, what should we have? So if it's not breakfast, if that really isn't the most important meal of the day, and people ask that all the time, what do I eat for breakfast? You eat your fat for fuel, your love handles.
I don't eat anything. I don't eat anything for breakfast. I have a Unimate. And because I like the way that I feel when I get up in the morning, I'm in a fasted state. I want to continue that. And I don't eat breakfast. I drink my Unimate, and then I break my fast at lunchtime with the fiber. If I'm going to be eating more than one meal a day, I break my fast at lunchtime, and then I have my fiber, eat lunch, have another Unimate in the afternoon, and I like to do another fiber before dinner. That's just me. I've always done it that way, and I like the way it makes me feel. So
awesome. Derek, how about you?
Same thing, ditto. Like I skip breakfast. When you skip breakfast, being a, because I'm a medical device rep, when you skip breakfast, you save a lot of money because you can't, I just went to Huntsville this weekend, and one of our top people in Unicity actually went to Starbucks and sat there and watched people spend money at Starbucks. He goes, it was anywhere from $7 to $10 on average, every transaction.
I believe it.
And so by skipping breakfast, the product pays for itself, and you're not ingesting those sugary drinks like Dr. G says, and your body stays in that fat burning mode. And like I said, sometimes my first meal isn't until 3 in the afternoon, and it's not. I don't get hangry. I don't get headaches. I'm full of energy, and it's almost like I forget to eat. It's just an amazing thing, So I'm with Dr. G on that one.
Sure.
The thing about too at Starbucks, it's not really breakfast. They're just getting coffee probably and maybe a muffin.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, a $10, $15 meal.
That is
I mean,
so true.
All that. I mean, it's not breakfast, but yeah, that's a lot of money for one little, morsel.
So true.
Absolutely. What'd you have, Derek?
No, I said that's so true.
Yeah.
She's right. It's just coffee. Yeah.
So, and I want to throw this out here too. One of the things that I often hear people will talk about is how, in part, they'll get on the protocol or they're just starting and feeling that, oh, you know what? I did this to lose weight and I'm not losing anything. One of the things that I think is always really important that I coach people on is in that first week or so, be very intentional, get a notepad, and track if you haven't done it before. And I don't mean measure it. Don't weigh stuff. Just give a ballpark. What do you put in the pie hole? What are you actually eating and drinking all day? And to consciously make a point to note what you're doing. We eat all day without thinking about it. We snack all day without thinking about it. Even on the protocol, if you're not being attentive to that, it could easily fall into that because we have it as a habit. And part of what the protocol does is help us to break that and to learn how to eat in the right order, which is why fiber should always come first in that heaviest meal of the day. So that's one thing that I throw out with people when they first started. So I want to throw it out. Derek, what is a question that you get asked regularly that you'd like to address on here from people?
I love the question when they say, so Derek, so I get it, you're lowering insulin, this product lowers insulin levels. What happens when I reach my goal? Do I have to keep taking the product? And my answer to that is really, really easy. So I look at these products as liquid food. Fiber's been stripped from our typical American diet. So guess what? I'm putting it back into my diet. Ultra processed food strips it, as Ken mentioned earlier. If you weren't on here, it's just liquid food, right? So, and then the Unimonte obviously is something that helps keep insulin levels low. That's a natural plant. You're just drinking that on a daily basis. So it's food. It's cut my grocery bill from 500 to about 250 a month. Amazing. And I live with 5 people in the household.
Wow.
So personally, I'm gonna take it. Now, for the people, I tell people, no, you don't need unicity to lower your insulin levels.
Right.
But if you're not gonna take it, that means you're pretty much going to have to work out every day, be consistent in the gym. I'm an ex-athlete. I don't even do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have time to go to the gym. So, working out pumps your lymph system, builds muscle tone, and all that good stuff. So that's good for you and health-wise. You should do that. But are you going to do that every day? And then the other thing, even if you're on the carnivore diet, which protein keeps your insulin levels down, right? What happens when you want some potatoes? What happens when you want some rice? What happens when you want some macaroni every now and again? Or that cake on the weekend that you want to drink?
Cheesecake.
There you go. So if you're eating that, your sugar is going to spike. You see? So it's like you're going backwards if you eat like that, because that's how we all eat. Don't be ashamed of it. We all eat like that. Now, of course, I don't eat like that all the time, but when I do, I protect myself with that fiber, liquid food. So I say yes and no. I'm going to stay on it, but no, you don't have to. That's my question. The answer to the question.
That's good.
Awesome. Dr. G, what about you? What's been a popular question that you get?
Lately, do I have to fast? I don't like fasting. Do I have to fast? And my answer is no, you don't. You don't have to fast. It's helpful to fast. We see results when you do fast and you combine fasting with this fiber and the Unimate. And I think it's because when I ask a little deeper the question, they're afraid to fast. Because the last time they fasted, they got hangry, they got the shakes, which is reactive hypoglycemia. They've experienced, brain fog and headaches and migraines just by fasting, so they can't do it. The Unimate takes care of all of that. I had trouble fasting. I wasn't a breakfast person. I would not eat breakfast, but I would get hangry around 10 o'clock in the morning. And then I was reaching for something. Usually it was something salty, like chips or crackers or something that was not healthy, energy bar, something. It had to be something. And I never really prepared, so it was always whatever I could grab. So then I would eat lunch an hour and a half later or so, and then I'd have the carb crash in the afternoon. And then I wanted something sweet because I needed that sugar pick-me-up. So you don't have to fast. I found, though, that when you do fast and you have Unimate, it helps you extend your fast because it is allowing your body to burn fat for fuel, because it's allowing that chlorogenic acid to increase your GLP-1 naturally, which allows this to all take place. If you were doing a synthetic and the semaglutide, it's producing the GLP-1 for you. They also ask you to modify your diet. People don't realize that. And modify your diet is, I'm thinking that's kind of what we're talking about here. So you don't have to fast. This makes it a lot easier to fast, and your results will be seen a lot. I don't want to say, immediately, but we'll see results sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know we're kind of winding down time, and I want to throw this question because I think there's kind of a theme that, and maybe you've heard it, people asking, why do we have to give this up? Or what do I have to give up? Or I don't want to give that up. That seems to be a theme a lot of people have. Years ago, there was a pastor back in Georgia. Some of y'all may know the name Andy Stanley. He came up with what he called the best question ever. Now, what it was talking about was life decisions, like about who we're hanging out with when we're dealing with temptations. But the best question ever is, what is the wise thing to do? The more that I've pondered the health journey and the questions that as coaches we get asked regularly, really and truly, that the question that we ought to be asking everybody, including ourselves, do I have to stay on the protocol? No. Do I have to fast? No. What is the wise thing to do, however? And when we begin to reframe that question, why would we want to do anything different? At least give the protocol a shot. Because if what you've been doing is just giving you what you've always gotten, is that the wise thing to do? To question everything in terms of what do I have to give up? When what we really should be asking is, what do you have to gain?
Yeah.
That right there is life-changing.
Absolutely.
So if you, so if you were invited tonight by Dr. G or Derek or me or somebody else, or you just stumbled across here and you recognize one of the mugs on this screen, get with us. If somebody else invited you here that you know is on the protocol, get with them. They are there and we are your friends. We want you to be the hero of your journey and partner with you on that. Derek and Dr. G, I want to thank y'all for being here tonight. This has been another great call, and I hope people have gotten some great information. I do. I learn from you guys every time, and I'm so thankful to be able to host this and do this each week. And as far as I think we've got it figured out, we're going to be back here, same bat time, same bat channel next week. If that works for everybody. And we'll pick another topic that is relevant to everybody on insulin resistance and what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing this. And if you've got people that you think would benefit, we'd love for you to invite them and be a part of this. Derek, Dr. G, do you have anything you guys want to add tonight as we sign off here tonight?
No, thanks, Ken, though. Did a great job.
You did, Ken. And the cool thing about it is you thank you for educating everyone on here, Ken. That was awesome to show that this is backed by science. This is all about education. It's not so much selling the product. You know, being in the medical device world for 17 years and knowing nothing about insulin resistance was kind of embarrassing to me. So your education tonight, Ken, was amazing. You, Dr. G, thank you. Your credibility is wonderful. And I love coming on here with y'all. So thank y'all.
Well,
you bring a lot too, Derek. Thankful for you.
It's nice being on here with both of you guys. And you know, you said you were in the medical device world for 17 years. I went to school and they didn't teach this to me. So imagine that. I paid money for that. I paid money for that. And I still didn't have education. So now respect my alma mater, but
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank y'all for being here, and everybody here. If you've got questions, get with any of us here. And as I always say, go get the day and make it golden, and ask yourself, what is the wise thing to do? Thank y'all for coming tonight. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Bye.